Hey, Project AM teams, this is Felicia here. I'm actually a mentor for one of the teams and also a strategic consultant as well. And here's how to pitch a great product. A great pitch makes for a great product. So here is with every great product is a great pitch behind it. And here's the acronym. Here's the acronym pitch that encompasses 5 components that are a starting ground for a great pitch. By no means is a pitch limited to just this. So the 5 components are present with confidence, integrate personal pain points, teach with relatable stories, capture with core functionalities, and hang with anticipation. Imagine this. It's pitch day, and you've just heard 10 other amazing pitches, and now you're nervous that yours may not be as good as theirs. You're nervous that there's no way you can win this pitch jam, and you might even be embarrassed to present what you have. Stop those thoughts right there. All those things are not true because you are going to totally kill this pitch. But the first key component to that is to present with confidence. Presenting with confidence involves elevating your brand and knowing what your product and your team is all about. And more importantly, knowing what you yourself are all about. What is the mission you want to get across, and what is the style that best reflects who you are and who your team is? Some teams may pass out trinkets or even wear costumes during their pitch. Keep it mature and professional while keeping it fun and stylish to how it best represents you. Next, master your product. Know your product well. That oftentimes doesn't mean knowing every single thing well, but when you're creating your pitch, understand where you have contributed most to and which aspects of your product you feel the most comfortable explaining about. If you're a non-technical person, you probably don't want to talk about machine learning, but you might want to touch on the market research and competitor assessment. And if you're the founder of the product, it'd be a great look for you to touch on the vision. Own what you know well. Whichever aspect of the product you help to develop, treat it like your baby and take care of it well and own it when you present it. Next, showcase your team dynamics. Your team isn't going to be like any other team. You guys are different and you guys are unique. Let your audience know who you guys are and what skill sets you bring to the table. Allocate speaking points and slides to team members based on their different skill sets, and be sure to show off how well you all complement one another. Get the audience to feel your team chemistry. Now imagine this. Your audience knows nothing about you and knows nothing about your product. How do you capture them from the get-go? Lead your pitch with a personal pain point. Ask yourself, what is the personal story and pain points that drive the team to be passionate for building out this product? What led to your vision in the first place? Think back to the very first meeting you may have had. How were you all as a team persuaded to run with this product? Whatever that story or pain point is, tell your audience and allow it to stir their hearts to be further intrigued by your product. In short, this comes in the form of clearly conveying the problem and the need that your product is addressing. Oftentimes, I like to suggest that the team does research on their audience. Find out who's attending pitch day and dig out for their profiles. In order to capture your audience, you must know your audience to some degree. Get to know their backgrounds and carve your pitch as a story that can resonate with them. If your product is for helping the elderly live independently, well, most likely your audience won't be the elderly, but instead, you can carve out a personal story or a fictional story, such as Person X couldn't grasp the fact that they couldn't help their elderly grandma live independently. They longed to see a product that could allow them to help their grandma go about her day to day on her own. Statistically speaking, most people will probably relate to Person X and resonate through this, because come on, who wouldn't want to help their grandma live independently? Next, make sure you set the tone for the impact your product will have. Don't unload everything about your product right off the bat, but make sure to slowly reveal it to your audience. Reveal it as you unfold the story behind your product. This way, your audience will become more and more curious as to what your product does and its impact, rather than giving them all the candies right away and then boring them later on. So, what if your audience knows nothing about machine learning, but your product basically utilizes machine learning by all means, and you want your audience to understand that? No sweat there. You can make it work by making sure that you teach your audience your product with relatable stories. Allow your audience to relate to the average user of the product. Teach them on the assumption that they know nothing, but also teach them assuming they have basic intuition. Once again, utilize your pitch story to help them understand how to use your product. Make the impact of your product visible and tangible. If your product uses machine learning, give them an example of an input, let's say unsorted data, and tell them how over time machine learning trains the dataset so that the outcome of a sorted dataset improves over time. Make analogies to break down your product even more to make it understandable. Make sure to always show your audience how there is a diverse market need for your product. If your product only targets a niche market, such as a 16-year-old high school student, then it's going to be hard to have buy-in from your audience. Even at the moment, if your product only targets a niche market, show your audience with use cases on how your product can later on be adapted in other markets and for other users. Show adaptability and versatility of your product. Show that it is not one-dimensional, but that it is infinitely dimensional and can be flexed on many markets. Hopefully by now, you've also gotten your problem statement across in some way to your audience. It never hurts to reiterate this throughout, but make sure you use the simplest words possible. Act as if you are explaining to a first grader. Don't use technical jargon or generational jargon. Be simple and get to the point to keep your audience on track with connecting the dots between the problem and what your product does to address the problem. So now your audience has heard all these words about the problem you're addressing and the impact of your product. Now it's time to really show off your product by creating a demo. Your demo should be no longer than 1.5 to 2 minutes. There's no need to show off everything. Select 2 to 3 core functionalities that are key to your product's mission and ones that will further capture the selling point you want to get across to your audience. Also, don't show off your product with a demo that's simply you clicking a ton of functions and explaining it. Explain it through the lens of your pitch story. Allow it to be easy for your audience to follow along. Design your demo so that it's a path they can follow. Don't jump around from function to function. Connect each function for them so they don't have to exert energy into doing so. Take it step by step and make it seamless for them to understand. I would also highly recommend that your developer or technical person on your team does the demo and presents the demo. However, I would also precaution against using highly technical terms. It's probably okay to use words like artificial intelligence and machine learning. Those are common enough, but don't use words like HTML, JavaScript, Python. Oftentimes, people attend pitches are non-technical people, and highly technical terms don't mean much to them. Show off your product in such a way that fascinates your audience without short-selling yourself. You put so much hard work into this, it deserves to be seen, but make sure it's seen precisely and with interest. Now you've basically explained your entire product to your audience and how it all began. They've even seen your product and how it works. So now what? Is it time to end? The ending is the utmost important part of a pitch. Psychologically, people remember the first and last thing of everything they see. Make sure to leave your audience hanging with anticipation. Create an atmosphere in which they have something to look forward to. Maybe you might choose to reveal a few product functionalities that are in the making. Or maybe you've already created a partnership with another company who may be buying your product off of you. Or maybe your hang with anticipation moment is you allowing the audience to test the product on their own mobile devices right there and then. Sometimes teams do this by putting up a QR code that directs the audience to the URL of their platform, or something that contains further info about their product. Either way, end exciting and peak to a second climax. Throughout your pitch, it's important to never be stuck on something for too long, or get worked up on something that you want to explain more of. It's okay if you don't explain everything to the deepest depths possible, because you actually want to save room at the end for questions. Leave a few things unanswered. If your audience is curious, they'll ask. A way to prep for questions is to create an appendix at the end of your deck. When your audience asks questions, you'll be so prepared that you have another slide to whip out to answer their question. You'll blow them away with this. Before ending your pitch and wrapping up the day, make sure to always have some sort of 5 to 10-year plan laid out. It doesn't have to be perfect, but make sure that it goes to show that your product has potential for growth, and if this is a for-profit product, make sure to have numbers around revenue growth and cost allocation. Last but not least, have fun presenting, and take it away as a learning experience. The first time I ever pitched a product, we didn't even finish our script and deck until the day before. But in the end, I genuinely think we did the best we could, and we had so much fun. And guess what? My experience was a segue into the rest of my career. If you have any questions or would simply like to chat, feel free to reach out to me on Slack separately or connect on LinkedIn. Happy product pitching!